theyeshiva.net.
Okay, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be learning today and tomorrow. Afterwards, Thursday, there won't be a shiur. And we'll take a break till after Rosh Hashanah because Wednesday I'm traveling. So we'll have a shiur this morning and then tomorrow morning. So I just chose a sicha, a talk of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that he gave on Rosh Hashanah. That's printed in Likkutei Sichos. And that's what we'll learn. We'll start it today, and Be'ez Hashem, Bli Neder, we'll finish it tomorrow. It's a fundamental concept that's connected to Rosh Hashanah and davening and the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, etc. So somebody made copies here. Just distribute the copies beside them. It's in Likkutei Sichos Chelik Yud Tes, page 291. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said this sicha, this talk, this inyan, at a Fabrengen on Rosh Hashanah, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, Tovshin Lamed Vav, Yom Beis Rosh Hashanah Tovshin Lamed Vav, which would be 1975, and it's published in his Likkutei Sichos, volume 19, on Rosh Hashanah. It's in Yiddish, I'll translate. Rosh Hashanah Vav Tishrei, Aleph. In der Hafteire von ersten Tag Rosh Hashanah, Tchila Sefer Shmuel, wird erzählt wegen Chana, Eishes Elkanah, was der Teuchen ist, als früher ist Chana eingeladen, und danach durch die Tfille, seindig in Shiloh, bei Mishkan, ist Nifke geworden mit der Sohn Shmuel Hanavi. The first day of Rosh Hashanah is a special Hafteire from the beginning of Shmuel. The opening of Shmuel, the book of Shmuel, Shmuel Aleph, as he brings in footnote number 1 from the Gemara Megillah, Daf Lamed Aleph, the Gemara says, Maftirin Bechana. The Haftarah of Rosh Hashanah is the story of Chana. So in Shulchan Aruch, Chaim, Simon Tov Kuf Pei Dalet. What's the story? There was a man named Elkanah. He had a wife Pnina. Pnina had a lot of children. He had a wife Chana. Chana was not blessed with a child. She was very hurt and she grieved it and mourned it. And as the pasuk continues, Eli, the Mishkan, and then there was no Beis HaMikdash at the time. The Mishkan then was in a place called Shiloh, where it stood for 369 years. For the first few centuries of the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, most of the time the Mishkan was in Shiloh, besides a few other locations, very brief. And then later, David and Shlomo would build the first Beis HaMikdash. But this is before that. Chana would be the mother of Shmuel, who would be the one who would coronate Shaul as a king, and then later David as a king. So this is before the Beis HaMikdash is built. And Eli, her husband, would go to Shiloh, to the Mishkan, with the family. And one year, that's what the Haftarah describes, is how Chana, when they went to Shiloh, she went into the Mishkan, and she prayed, she davened at length. As we're going to describe soon, the Kohen Gadol, Eli, thought she was drunk from how she was davening. He gave her musar, he rebuked her. You don't come into the Mishkan drunk, inebriated. Ad masai tishtakarin, hasirius yenech me'alayich. Get sober and then come back here. And Chana describes to him that she's not drunk. She's in pain because she never had a child and she's pouring out her heart to Hashem. Eli blesses her. And indeed, the next year she's blessed with a son. And she names that boy, little baby, named Shmuel. And she says, because she made a promise in Shiloh, that if God gives her a child, she will dedicate him to Hashem and his service. So she names him Shmuel, Ki me Hashem she'iltiv. He's like borrowed, like Shaul with a mem, she'ela, Shmuel. I borrowed him from Hashem. It's like a loan from Hashem, because he really belongs to God. That was her promise. And Shmuel grows up to become one of the greatest Jews of all of history, one of the greatest prophets. Gemara says, Moshe ba'aron b'chayanov u'Shmuel b'kari Shmo. He was an equivalent to the status of Moshe and Aaron. And he becomes the prophet of the generation, the leader of the generation, and ultimately he would coronate Shaul as the first king of the Jewish people. That didn't work out. He would coronate David, and so forth. So that's the Haftarah of the first day of Rosh Hashanah. We do the story of Chana, praying, being blessed with a child, and then giving the Shira, saying a song after she was given the child. The mechuven from Kriyas HaHaftarah b'Chagim, and by all Haftarahs, is al derech v'Kriyas HaTorah. The objective of reading a Haftarah on any Yom Tov, and really all the Haftarahs, any Shabbos, is just like Kriyas HaTorah. What's the objective of Kriyas HaTorah? It's Miloshen Hayrah. The Zohar says, as he says in footnote 3 star, the word Torah doesn't mean law. The word Torah actually comes from the word Hayrah, which is lesson, a lesson. The purpose of Kriyas HaTorah is to learn from it, to glean a lesson in life from it. Haftarah is the same purpose, like Kriyas HaTorah. So he says in 3, Sharei lechatchila b'mkayim haba avud raham. Haftarah initially was created in lieu of Kriyas HaTorah. There was a time that they didn't allow the Jews to read the Torah. So what did the Chachamim do? They chose every week, the Yiddish cup, a chapter in Navi to compensate for, there was no Kriyas HaTorah when Haftarah started. They did it because they weren't allowed to read the Torah. Fine, so they read the Navi. Later, once the decree was nullified, such a geschmacka thing, they're not going to nullify. So we stayed with both. We have the Kriyas HaTorah, we have the Haftarah. So the objective of the Haftarah is just like the objective of Kriyas HaTorah. As a Yid soll der von ablernen, a Hira in dem Avoide von a Yid in dem Shabbos and in dem Chag. The objective of the Kriyas HaTorah and the Haftarah is that a Jew should learn from it a lesson in the Avoide, in the life of a Jew, whether it's in the Shabbos that the Haftarah is being read, or the Yom Tov is being read. No, it's not just like Torah B'chlal. It's not just a book of history to learn some story that happened. That's what the Zohar says. The Zohar says the word Torah tells you the genre of the book. If it's just a book of history, then it fails because Avraham Avinu lived for 180 years. How many stories do we know about him over 180 years? 175 years. Yitzchak lived 180 years. Yaakov lived 147 years. How many? We know a few stories. 6 stories, 7 stories, 8 stories, 9 stories. Adam lived close to a millennium. How many stories do we know? We know that he ate from a tree. That's what we know. We know that he ate from a tree. It's a Chanum gedreit, and he ate from a tree, and what did he do for 1,000 years? I don't know. Huh? He was busy with what? I don't know. Okay? The point is, so it's not stam. Jews were in Egypt for 210 years. The Torah sometimes could go, the whole Parshas Bereshis, beginning to end, is 1,500 years. 1,500 years in a Parsh. The point of Torah is, it has history in it. But that's what the Zohar says. Torah is begin the oiri. It's a lesson. It's a blueprint for life. That's what it is. It's a roadmap for the human journey through a difficult world, through a challenging world. So the Haftarah is also the same objective. We don't read it just to read a story or some other nevuah, but rather as a lesson in life. Azoyech binyaneinu. Afal pi as the tam for was man sagt the Haftarah bei Rosh Hashanah. Is weil Chan is nifkid gewonnen bei Rosh Hashanah. And Talta bei der Haftarah kama v'kama hiras. In der Avoide von Ayidem bei Rosh Hashanah, und euch kama v'kama hiras b'chlal. The Chazal say, why did they institute Chana on Rosh Hashanah? Why this story? The Gemara says in Megillah, Lamed Aleph, that we do Chana. So Rashi says over there, Rashi and Iran, because Chazal had a tradition that Chana was nifkat. She was remembered on Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph, learns out from Sukkim that 3 people were blessed on Rosh Hashanah with a child. Not that the child was born on Rosh Hashanah, but on Rosh Hashanah, as Rashi puts it there in Gemara, the Gezeirah was established that they should have a child. This was Sarah and Rachel and Chana. And that's what all 3 we read on Rosh Hashanah. The story of...
Happens in Rosh Hashanah? Everything is Nixon on Rosh Hashanah?
You're saying everything is Nixon on Rosh Hashanah, so what's the Chiddush? So you can read any story. You're saying any story. You're saying any story you can read on Rosh Hashanah. It's an interesting ha'ara. Rashi says over there in the Gemara, I think Rashi says that there's a Zikaron came before Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, and there was a Gzeira established on Rosh Hashanah, a decree that they're going to have children. I guess there was something special on Rosh Hashanah. By all three. The Gemara learns it out from Psukim. From the Lashon, it says there's Zecher and Pakad, Hashem Pakad. So in the Kriyas HaTorah of Rosh Hashanah, we read about Sarah having a child. And in the Haftarah, we read about Chana having a child. The second Haftarah, you also have about Rachel Mavaka al-Baneha from Yirmiyah. So, l'cha'ira, that's the correct connection. The connection is that Chana was somehow remembered on Rosh Hashanah. He says, that's true. But like everything in Torah, the Haftarah is not just a story she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah, but it contains many lessons in the Avodah of a Jew for Rosh Hashanah, and many lessons in generally. The Gemara says in Brachas, he says in 6, footnote 6, K'mayim Chazal, Kama hilchas agavris ikel lemashram anekroi dechana. The Gemara says many great halachas you could learn out from the Psukim and the story of Chana. So it's not just for Rosh Hashanah, it's general. Und wie bald das die Avoide, was hat gebracht zu Pkidus Chana. Weil das ist die Nekude Ikris von der Haftarah b'Sheichus al Rosh Hashanah, Keniske Elel, is given ihr Tfila b'Shiloi. Is mistaber loimar, as der Limud Ikri von der Haftarah b'Negeh der Avoide von Idem b'Rosh Hashanah is in Tfilas Chana. Und befratlei der Dei, was bringt sich inshallah, as euch Tfilas Chana is given b'Rosh Hashanah. What was the avodah? If the main objective of the Haftarah is a lesson in the avodah, an avodah of a Jew, the service of a Jew, what was the main avodah that brought the Chana being remembered? It was her davening. She came to the Mishkan, her tefillah, she prayed. And that's the whole nekudah why we read it on Rosh Hashanah, because she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah through her prayer. So it's logical to assume that the main lesson in this Haftarah about the avodah of a Jew in Rosh Hashanah is connected to what? To tefillah. And that's where you learn the great lesson of the Haftarah from Tfilas Chana. Especially, there's a very interesting opinion in the Shalah that the reason we read it on Rosh Hashanah is because it happened on Rosh Hashanah. Not only she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah, it's not Shalah says she was remembered, not just like you say, everything is remembered on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is like the day of the head of the year. Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year. The Gemara says, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah you can save, and Yom Kippur you can save. So the Shalah says it's much more than that. She was remembered on Rosh Hashanah because she actually davened on Rosh Hashanah. The story happened on Rosh Hashanah. She came to the Mishkan on Rosh Hashanah. She went in, so it was actually a Rosh Hashanah story. So we're reading something that happened on Rosh Hashanah, not just she davened whenever she davened, and Hashem decided on Rosh Hashanah to accept her prayer. This is what the Shalah says in 7. Mesechta Rosh Hashanah Shaloi. Dafrei Shidal. V'hu deloi kedrashos Chazal. Yalkut Shemani ala pasuk v'Allah Yishahu Shahaya Beis Aliyah L'Regel. That's why he says Likkutei. In Yalkut Shemani, the Medrash says on the pasuk that Elkanah used to go up from time to time to Shiloh, that it was Aliyah B'Regel. That he used to go for Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkos, and there's a whole story. At that time, many Jews would not be Aliyah L'Regel, but Elkanah would go with the whole entourage, with whole family, and he made it very exciting, and he would stop in every community, and there was a lot of food and fanfare and celebration, and it inspired all the Jews to make Aliyah L'Regel. And in that context, Chana came to Mishkan. So from that Medrash, it seems that Chana did it during one of the 3 Yom Tovim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkos. And the Medrash Taka says over there that it was, I think, Atzeres, Shavuos. But the Shalah brings another opinion, but the Pasuk doesn't say clearly when it was, but the Shalah brings another opinion that it was actually on Rosh Hashanah. And that's the Pshat, she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so this is the introduction, that the objective of the Haftarah is to learn something, and here the Nekudah is the Tefillah of Chana. That man es verstehen, behekt dem Abir in dem Sipper wegen Tfilas Chana, als früher hat Eli HaKoyen angenommen als Ashikoyre, weil Tfilah ist gewinnen an Öfen von Medaberes Aliba und hat der Fahr ausgerät, ad Monsey tisch da Karen geimen. Und Chana hat ihm auf dem geantwortet, Lo yadoini, ve'eshpoich es nafshi lifnei Hashem, azoi weit. So first we have to explain the story that happens in the Haftarah. What's the story? The Navi says Chana is a broken woman. She's she's a sad woman. She's there's more svarim. If anybody needs, there's more. Another 3 copies. The Davst, page 291. Page 291 in that sefer. And I have another 2 here. Page 259 for you. Oh, you have. Okay, if anybody needs, there's more copies. Yeah. So Chana is very, very sad. She doesn't have children. She comes into the Mishkan and she's davening. And it says, Chana medaberes al liba. She's speaking to her heart, with her heart. V'kayla lo yishamei. You can't hear her voice. Eli looks at her and he has this impression that she's drunk. She's intoxicated. And Eli is very upset. And he gives her a rebuke. Ad Monsey tishtakoren. How long are you going to, today's day and age, you would say, how long are you going to be an addict? How long are you going to get drunk? Come into the Mishkan drunk? Hasiri es yenech me'alach. Get rid of the alcohol. Get rid of the wine. Chana says, Loi, you're making a mistake. Ke'isha kshasruach anoich. I'm a woman who is a broken person. Yayin v'sheicha loisha sisi. I did not drink wine, I did not drink beer, I did not drink alcohol. Ve'eshpech es nafshi lifnei Hashem. I'm pouring out my heart before Hashem. And that's when Eli responds that Hashem should fulfill his request and give you a child. The Likkutei is nit verstandig. The whole story seems very strange. Aleph. Wie kommt es, as Eli hakoyen soll haben azatos min hakotze el hakotze. You know what min hakotze el hakotze means? A person could make a mistake. But sometimes you make a mistake, shaloi bedara doing, it's from one extreme to another extreme. Anstatt zu erkennen, as he is mispalim mit Shvichos HaNefesh, hat gar gemeint, as he is a shekayra. How is this possible? Eli is the Kohen Gadol of the generation. He's a great person. He's looking at a woman who's pouring out her heart to Hashem. So sometimes people make an error in judgment. It's a normal thing. We're human, we're subjective, we don't see the whole picture. But how is it that he could make such a mistake from one extreme to another extreme? Somebody is pouring out there, davening to Hashem with a Shvichos HaNefesh. He says, Ve'eshpech nafshi. And what does he see on her? All he sees on her, she's drunk, she's smashed, she's inebriated, she's intoxicated. He starts telling her, why you come in here drunk? How does such an error happen? We all know, we sometimes see a person who's broken, who's very introspective, who's experiencing a lot of grief, a lot of pain. They're pouring out their heart. Even if you just have a basic sense of sensitivity, you can recognize the difference. Somebody who's smashed and drunk, frivolous, somebody who's going through something very serious. How does such a mistake happen? And he adds in footnote 9 something very interesting. Rashi says in the story that day Eli was appointed to be the shofet, the judge. At that time, they were the manhigim. They were like the leaders of the generation. So Eli wasn't just a fine yid, a kohen gadol. He was considered the manig of the generation. V'gam shofet stam had a dayan tzarich liyas don din emes la'mitoy Shabbos daf yud shekosherim iyun b'machsheves hanidin ein b'toyses v'abasa. Even stam a shofet, what's the main quality of a shofet? To be sensitive to truth, to examine who the person is, to tune in to the issues at hand. That's the yisoid. Don din emes la'mitoy, always looking for the emes. Never just to judge something externally with your own bias, with your own subjective lenses. That's tam a shofet. Certainly when you're the shofet of the generation, the manig of the am, it says, Ein lechel a shofet shabiyamecha, yiftach b'doyer kishmol b'doyer. So Eli is like the manig. So even a regular person you would expect to have better judgment. Certainly a manig Yisrael, to be able to look at a woman who hasn't been blessed with children, and as a result of that is so much in pain, and she pours out her heart to God, and all he could tell her is, drunker, get out of here.
Well, in that process, say over there that he has to recuse himself.
Yeah.
So how is he allowed to make a don on her?
Very good, very good. That's the Taisus, very good. Taisus Mababasa, yeah. Taisus in Shabbos, yeah, and Bababasa. Ula Hayer. The Kohen and Bechlal Shayachim Linyan HaMachshava. Da Avaydasam Hi Bechashoye Berusa de Liba. In Zohar it says that Kohanim generally are connected to the world of thought. Their avodah is silence, and with Ratzon Halev, the Leviim were musical, they would sing. The Kohanim, their avodah was done without a sound. It was done b'chashay, which represents more kavana. V'gam al pi nigla, had a inyana mashahuvdulu la'avodas hakarbonas. shemachshava iker baza u'l'shem shisha dvarim hazevach nizbach v'al derech zeh b'shara avodas. In Pshat, they were designated for the karbonos. By karbonos, it's one of the avodas that a machshava is fundamental. Some slight discrepancy in machshava disqualifies low carbon. You don't have that with other avodas of Hashem. A kohen is making a carbon, right, and he thinks that he's going to eat it Tuesday. Boom, ice carbon. The machshava is a fundamental thing. And it says, when you shech carbon, has to be l'shem shisha dvarim. And the other avodas, zrika, halacha, Kabbalah, because there's 4 major avodas. So sayal pi zoya, sayal pi nigla, the kohen is very much tuned into machshava. And yet here, Eli displays the opposite. The opposite of anything that we would expect from a shayfet, from a kohen. Beis. Even if you'll find an explanation how a person like Eli would make such an error. Okay, you'll find. Is the Chaltz nicht moving. For was that zählt man wegen dem in Teure? In Torah, generally, we're very careful not just to embarrass anybody. Even a behemoth, the Gemara says about Basra, even a disgrace of a behemoth tmeya, the Torah didn't want to say. It says in Parshas Noach, behemoth sheinena tahir, at the beginning of Pesachim, we learned about it. You have to have a good reason. Some lesson, some important fundamental issue that the Torah has to say it. Why is this relevant? Just to bring out that Eli was clueless. Torah wants to teach something. Gimel. Eli thought she was a shikr. Verwas hat Eli abgewahrt mit seinen Ausreden im Ehr, bis sie hat geendigt die Tfille. Rashi touched up Eli Shomer es Pia, Loshen Hamtona. Doch gleich gedacht der Mafsig sein und Zemmes soll rausfinden von Beis Havaya. You're not let her come into a Mishkan drunk. Eli didn't interrupt her. It says Eli Shomer es Pia. Rashi says he watched her mouth. He waited, like it says Va'aviv Shomer es Hadavra by Yaakov. Yaakov waited. Ve'eli Shomer doesn't mean he watched her mouth. It means he waited till she finished her whole davening, because Chana davened for a while. She spoke to Hashem there. She made the famous neder that if you're going to see my pain, I will dedicate this child. You'll give me a zera anoshim. You'll give me a child. I will dedicate him to Hashem all the days of his life. And after she finished, Eli turned to her. If you really see somebody came in intoxicated, you say, Chavra, please, madam, this is not the right place. You can't come in to the Mishkan Shiloi drunk. He didn't do that. He waited. Gimel. Von dem allem is muchach. From all these questions, it's quite obvious, as Eli hat nit batracht nit als shikoyre in poshetен Sinn. Nor as shikoyre in the minyan atfila. From all this, you could see Eli didn't just see a woman and thought she was just drunk. She went to a bar, and she finished a bottle of Zeksa 96% alcohol, or 2 bottles of French wine, and she came into the Mishkan. That's not what happened. Because then you would have all these questions. Rather, when it says he saw her drunk, it's a particular type of drunkenness, a particular type of intoxication. Das meint, it will be, who's going to explain, das meint, wie bald das der Tfille von Chana ist gewinnen an Neufen, von hier bis solle hispalo, is es a Tfille yitzedem in Hamide, was es nit kein Dover haratzui, wenn mir is oimed lefnei Hashem, bebeis Hashem, kedele kamon seiftes. He saw that she was davening in a specific way. It says, here bis solle hispalo. She was davening excessively. And Eli felt that the way she was davening was something that was inappropriate. And that's what he was expressing with the words shikras. Und Chana's answer of them is, ve'eshpech es nafshi lefnei Hashem. Chana told Eli, you're wrong. She understood what he meant. I'm pouring out my soul. When der Hirbissel is Paul is verbunden mit Schwiches HaNefesh, is es nicht an Ingen von Shikras und Tfila, nor Adir aber Dargen Neilis und Tfila. Eli felt that her davening is inappropriate, it's called unintoxicated davening. A shikr dike davening. It's a shikr dike davening. It's not the right way to daven, the way he saw her davening. So Chana explained to him what was going on. And this type of davening, it's not a shikris in davening, on the contrary, it's a very profound way of davening. Und das ist echt der Sichos von Tfilas Chana zu Rosh Hashanah. Weil der Teino meine zwischen Eli HaKohen und Chana wegen dem Öfen hat Tfilah bebeis Hashem, gibt euch ein Verstand in dem Teuchen Klali von Tfilas Chana von Kama Tfilas bei Rosh Hashanah. Once we can understand this, we'll be able also to understand the connection of Tfilas Chana to Rosh Hashanah. Not just in the sense of that she was remembered on Rosh Hashanah, or it happened on Rosh Hashanah, but rather as a blueprint for the avodah of Rosh Hashanah. Because the exchange, the debate that goes on between Eli and Chana, it's not just a debate between two people. It's a debate that actually captures and gives a perspective, not only on the davening of Chana, but also on our davening on Rosh Hashanah and many tefillas of Rosh Hashanah Kiddush L'Kamon, as will be explained. Right. Yeah. It says, he saw that Hirbasol Hispalo. Yeah. We'll come back to it. This is just the general bloop, the foundation. Benegeh, the tefillas for Rosh Hashanah, gefit men zwei in Yanim Havchim. If you look at the tefillas of Rosh Hashanah, you see a paradox. Rosh Hashanah is the Yom Hadin of alle Tzarchei Adam hem beruchnes v'hem begashmas. Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment about all the needs of a person, whether it's needs in ruchniya, spiritual needs, or material needs. Via state, it says in Tehillah, Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kaseh liyom chagenu, ki choik li Yisrael hu mishpat lelekei Yaakov. On this day you blow shofar, and he says it's choik li Yisrael hu mishpat lelekei Yaakov. From here the Gemara learns out of Masechta Rosh Hashanah that Rosh Hashanah is the Yom HaMishpat. But it also says choik li Yisrael hu. What does choik li Yisrael hu? Literally it means it's a statute, it's a choik, it's a law for the Jewish people. But there's also the interpretation choik li Yisrael from Lashon hatrifeni lechem chuki. There's an expression in Mishlei, give me, hatrifeni, give me the bread that I need. Main the dinu mishpat of mezainis kel alat tzrachim gashma. So choik li Yisrael, not just it's a law for the Jewish people. That's the day that the choik, the amount of bread, which includes all material needs, money and parnasa and sustenance and health and all that, in terms of housing, every person's physical life, all the material aspects, that's the day of choik li Yisrael. And then this mishpat lelekei Yaakov is the dinu mishpat of inyanim ruchnim. Vifus zal nimshach v'en gilia lekuz benavsha. So the pasuk includes both. Choik li Yisrael is the chok, the hatrifeni lechem chuki, the amount of bread every person gets. And bread here is a metaphor for all the needs of a person. Mishpat lelekei Yaakov is a mishpat, how much elikus will be revealed in the person. Elekei Yaakov. Mishpat lelekei, how much elikus, the gili elikus, but that's also a din in Rosh Hashanah. How much elikus you'll be able to experience during the year. That's basically the spiritual life of the person. The two are, of course, connected, Haba Hatalia. But it's two in Yana. One is choik li Yisrael, one is mishpat lelekei Yaakov. Or the fire betman and the tefillas of Rosh Hashanah, avbana, chayo mazayna, or neicha fatzlach in Yanim ruchna. That's why, if you'll open up the machzor, the tefillas of Rosh Hashanah, what does a Jew ask? He asks for blessings connected with children, all issues connected to family. Chaya, which is all issues connected to life, health, life. And mezayna, which is all issues connected to sustenance. Bana, chaya, mezayna, which basically includes these are the umbrella issues that most people, every person asks for. Your family, your children, life, sustenance, bana, chaya, mezayna. But we also ask Rosh Hashanah, not just for gashmis, also for hatzlacha, and everything connected to ruchnis. Mishpat lelekei Yaakov, for the gili elikus benavshay on Rosh Hashanah, on the whole year. Yeah. Mishpat lelekei Yaakov is that you're zoicha to be able to have transparency, to be able to feel this year oneness, to be able to feel elikus, to be able to feel the oneness of the world. Yeah, that when you learn a Maimon Likkutei Torah, Chetakas is also chaplegen. It's a Sichos, it's not a... Huh? What?
Not only the day-to-day life, I feel in the land of life.
In the land of Noach, yeah. In the land of Noach, yeah. And when you're in the airport too. Yeah, when you're in the airport too, when you're in the office too. When you're trying to make a sale too. In other words, a person should be able to have the Gilead L'kuz B'nafshe, to be able to feel the connection and the oneness in their life. That's a gift, and as we always learn, there's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, endless. So that's also Mishpat L'Lekei Yaakov. Yeah. So that's one element of Rosh Hashanah. And in many ways, that's the classic Rosh Hashanah, at least, from one perspective that will be discussed. It's Yom Adin, it's a day of judgment. The judge is deciding what the year is going to look like. So basically, you want to petition, you want to ask, you want to beg, you want to ask for compassion, you want to daven. That's one element of Rosh Hashanah. But the interesting thing is, if you look at the actual text of the Chazal of Rosh Hashanah, what do they discuss in Rosh Hashanah? Take a look at the Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei, you always know what a Yom Tov is, because that's the text that Anshe Knesset HaGdolah made for a Yom Tov. What's the theme of Rosh Hashanah there? Does it say once Yom Hadin? Doesn't say even once Yom Hadin in Shemona Esrei. The theme is Meloich ala olam kulei b'chveidach. Leidach ist aber yadua as the nekudas ha'avayda, was ikar is betfila von Rosh Hashanah, besteht in machter sein der Meibishten als Melech. On the other hand, it's known the main avodah of Rosh Hashanah. And the primary avodah is expressed in the davening of Rosh Hashanah. It's not just in the davening, it's the whole Rosh Hashanah, but it's expressed primarily in the davening, is the Tzemach Tzedek used to call the night of Rosh Hashanah Koronationacht, the night of coronation. The Jew coronates the Rebbeinu Shalom as a king. B'lashon Chazal, the Gemara says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah Daf Tazayin and Daf Lamed Dalet, Shetamlichuni aleichem. Hashem tells the Jewish people, I'm asking you, please make me a king over you. Only mezak betfilas Rosh Hashanah, Meloich ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha, hinaseh al kol haaretz b'karecha, v'hoifer b'darga yenuzecha, v'yeda kol pol kiyata piyalta. We see what's the theme. V'yomer kol hashem neshama v'api Hashem Elokei Yisrael melech malchusa b'kol mashallah. And how do you finish the bracha? You always know how do they finish. Baruch atah Hashem melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron. So, yes, there is in the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, there's a few references. You have Ata Zichroinus, right? That everything comes in front of you and you remember everything. And you decide everything. It's not ignored. And we have plenty piyutim and all of our bakashas. But you see in the brachas of Shemona Esrei themselves, in the Maidiv, in the Shachris, in the Mincha, Musaf includes much more because you have the Malchias, the Chroinus, Shofras. And even in Musaf, you have the theme of Malchias, Tamluchuni Aleichem, you have the theme of Shofras. Was Achtaras HaMelech, the Kabbalah's Malchusi is dafke durch the Tnuah from Bittul B'tachlis. The theme of coronating a king and accepting his Malchus always comes through a Tnuah. It requires a movement, a motion, an experience of Bittul, of submission, of surrender to the king. Durch dem, was man warft sich in ganzen unter zum Melech, bis man füllt gar nicht der eigene Rezeunis. Und der Bittul ruft areis beim Melech es al annehmen der Hachtara. What causes, what inspires the king to accept the coronation? What is a coronation of the king? It's basically the nation says, we want you. We're here for you. We want you to be our leader. The king recognizes the absolute submission and surrender of all of the subjects. Yechia Melech, as they would scream. You have it in the Yechia Melech David La'olam in the Navi, or other times. The Hachtara represents the time that the whole nation looks to the king and they say, we want you. Ein lanu melech ela ata. To the point that the person at that moment is not so conscious of his own desires and his own needs. The focus is, I want you as the king. Was die inyanim sein dich tarte de saser. So it looks like you have here two themes that are contradictory. What is Rosh Hashanah? What is Rosh Hashanah? Is Rosh Hashanah about me? Or is Rosh Hashanah about God? Beis mir steht in a bittel betachlis zum Melech, is man nicht begedert zu trachten und betten wegen eigene Zerachim. Was ist scheich nur dann, wenn man hat eigene Rezeunes. Und das ist auch sehr viele Bescheiches zu ruchni ist die Zerachim. Allachas kann man gehen Gashmi ist die Bakashas. Was ich sehe ist die Iker Adin von der Shoshana, kann man vor Bagas Maimines. Okay, you do was steht in Tekune Zayhar, als die was betten bei Yom de Kippure, auf Mezoine, Sliche, Kapare, Chaye, Kasveno Lechaye. This is from Zayhar, pretty sharp. Seinen wie Klovim was schreien Hav. You ever saw a dog asking for food? Gib, weil sie trachten wegen sich und nicht wegen der Schinne. Aber leider gisse, seien die Bakashas auf Zorche Yadam eingestellt geworden in Nusach Atfila durch Chazal, Chachamenu Zal. Und sie seien meweier, as demos ist das Mann Rotzen auf Milia Bakashas v'chuli. Was von dem ist verstanden, als der Bakashas davon sein, nicht nur mit Zad Kabbalah soll, für bald der Eberstadt geheißen, als jeden betten seine Zerachim, jeden betten seine Zerachim bei der Shoshana. Tut als bloß bechtet zum Mekayim seinem Nationalien. Nur in den Öfen hat Rotzen verhergisch und die Zerachim am Vakasham. Das heißt, von einer Seite darf man wellen und mechaven sein in dem Tel von Davenen, als der Eberstadt soll ihm geben seine Zerachim. Was dabei fordert sich, man soll füllen der eigene Metzies, mager sein, was es fällt ihm. Und zusammen damit darf sein durchgenommen mit dem Durchführen, dem Tamlichuni Aleichem, was fordert ein vollständigen Bittel, was es scheuert der eigene Metzies. Yeah. We have two completely different experiences. We'll give it even a metaphor. It's not a perfect metaphor, but just to illustrate the idea. We don't have today really the concept of malchus. We live in a democracy. But for most of history, people grew up with a king was an absolute ruler. Well, we don't even understand what it means. Even in England, you have the queen, but it's not. It's ceremonial. It's good for tourists, for Buckingham Palace tourism, and it's ceremonial. It's the people. It's the spirit. It's not absolute power. Well, other places you have kings or queens, but for most of history, the monarch had absolute power. But even today, by us, you don't have a king. You have a president who's democratically elected, and 4 years later he's gone. We could still, I think, understand the marshal. Just understand something. I'll give it again. It's not a perfect metaphor, but I think I'll illustrate it. The new president of the United States of America is nominated. They go to elections. Everyone votes. And the victor emerges victorious. And it's the inauguration day. This, a Lebedik and Freilich in Washington, or wherever the country and the city where the inauguration of that particular king or queen or president or prime minister or leader. And the person gets up, and everybody is cheering, Yichi HaMelech, or whatever the appropriate expression, whatever the appropriate expression of that culture is, yeah. And an alter Yidel comes up, and says, wait, Mr. President. On my block in front of my house, there's a pothole. And every day I trip over there. Okay, if you're the leader of this country, could you take care of the pothole? Gotta fix it. Okay, so let's hope that he comes out, b'shein v'yayin, he comes out in one piece. Something is off. What's off? He's my president. He's responsible for the country. Doesn't want to do it himself, get somebody. You're right, he's the president, he's ultimately responsible, the buck stops here. But as I say, everything has a time and everything has a place. Today is the day of inauguration. Today is not the day. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Today is ask not what the king can do for you. Ask what you can do for the king. That's the focus. Tomorrow, come in, make an appointment with the bureaucrats. Hopefully you'll have mazel, the bureaucracy won't be that bad, and get all the potholes on your block fixed. And if you could already change the sewage system and the cesspool system and a lot of other things, if you get a few lights up, it would all be nice and good. It's not just, it's off time and it's off place. In other words, come back tomorrow. The teichen is a different teichen. It's a different experience. The question is if it's about you or it's about me. It's a very different question. What stage am I in? You come to a chassan by his wedding, under the chuppah or dancing. Yeah, you go into the circle. You go into the chuppah. Say, by the way, yeah, the investment that you made last year, you still owe me. You have to give me $7,000 in this, right? You may be 1,000% right. You may be 1,000,000% right, but you're just off. You're just off. Like for 10 minutes, don't think about yourself. Not that you're bad. Not that you don't need the $7,000. You do. You do. It's his chuppah. It's his wedding. It's a different word. What's hachtarah of a melech? You coronate a king. What's the focus? The focus is on the melech. Millions of subjects would come. That's how it was in Malchus Basav Adam. And again, we're not getting into if the king was a despot or a nice person. Many of the kings were crazy tyrants. That's a different nekuda. But even if you have the best, most beautiful king, then what's the focus? The whole nation comes together and say, we want you. Long live our king. What's felt at that moment is the zeitgeist of the nation, the spirit of the people embodied in their leader. Especially when it's a genuine leader who's a selfless leader. The Gemara says in Harius. What's a real leader? A leader is somebody, he captures the spirit of the people, the soul of the people. That's what real leadership is. Real leadership, therefore, is selfless. Leadership is not, I'm going to control you. That's not leadership. That's called dictatorship. That's not a melech. That's a moshel. Malchus is really beratzin. It's that this person really lives the people. The Rambam says, a melech hu leiv kol kahal Yisrael. He's the heartbeat of the nation. He's the heart of the people. Lahavdil, there were great, great tyrants and dictators, some of the worst in history, who understood this so well. Yeah. What did they manage to do? They managed to manipulate the nation, and they became the embodiment of the nation, and the whole youth was enamored by them and captured by them and swallowed up by them. They became a replacement for Tati, Mami, God, religion, truth, morality, ethics, and they used that nation pride and stolz and identity to do the worst things. The pinnacle of this was Germany in the 1930s. Yes. But Germany more effectively. In terms of the youth, the pride of the youth, yes. But Russia didn't do bad. Stalin didn't do bad for himself.
Just like a regular father, it's not my son is not my friend. I'm closer than a friend. It's not like I'm a father, I'm further than a friend. I'm much closer than a friend. Just simply, Hashem is our king, but not just a king as in a king. It's much closer than a father, closer than a king. It's a much closer relationship.
He's not saying you shouldn't ask God for your requests. He's not saying you shouldn't ask. But the nekuda of Kabbalas HaMalchus, yeah, is when the nation loses its individuality and they become connected to that one unifying reality which was granted by the king. Again, in our culture, we're very suspicious of all these things because of what happened in history. So we are we focus very much on individualism, right? We don't want to give up our individualism. I'm talking American culture, Western culture. I'm not talking about individual communities, right? And people who become very suspicious because this could be manipulated very easily. There's a corrupt guy, and of course everyone gives up their individuality. So that's why I understand this, the suspicion that it conjures. But I want you to understand the nekuda in the most ideal, beautiful way, right? a real leader galvanizes the spirit of the nation, and in that moment, when he is coronated, or when he is living up to that moment of being the great leader, what's experienced by the people is not themselves and their needs. What's experienced by the people is their oneness that's embodied in the spirit of the nation, that comes to their connection, that comes from their connection with this leader who brings them all together and represents a certain ideal. When somebody now emerges and says, but I have a pothole, you're right, you have a pothole, but it's extremely inappropriate. It's mamish out of context. It means you really don't get it. You're not part of this. So that's the question of Rosh Hashanah. On one hand, what's Rosh Hashanah? Shetamlichuni aleichem. Meloich aloylam kule b'chveidecha. What would be the Nikud in Avodah over there? The Nikud in Avodah over there. Ask not what God could do for you. Ask what you can do for God. That's the Nikud.
All day long, no. Say, it's on day, you can ask. Talk about infinite God.
Right,
All day
but
long, again and again. Then why not all year long?
it's not about minutes. It's not about minutes. It's what's the mahus of Rosh Hashanah? When a person is in a state of complete bittul to the king, so it's not about my wills, my desires, what I want. Even Ruchni is not. Certainly not Gashmis, but even Ruchni is not. That's why the Zohar is so sharp. And we're going to have to understand what the Zohar means. The Zohar says that people on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are asking for their food. It's like the dogs. That's what he calls them, klavim. What the dog wants one thing. More snacks, more snacks, more snacks. So stop thinking about yourself. Start thinking about the Shekhinah. So it's very interesting Zohar. But who's the one who spoke about the tefillas for personal things? Also the Chazal. The same Chazal put it into the text. So you could say, just do it. The bakashas, it should be mitzat kabbalah ha'soil. In other words, Hashem says, ask for your needs on Rosh Hashanah. But that's not the pshat. The pshat is that a person, they want, it's not just to be like a robot and do it because Hashem said and you really don't feel your needs. That's not the Havana. They said that this is as man rotzen, familia bakashas. In other words, it's a time to feel it and to experience the need. So what is Rosh Hashanah? Is it about me? Or is it about him? On one side, you want Hashem should give you your needs. And that means you feel yourself, you feel your voids, you feel your passions, you feel the potholes in your life, you feel it, you experience it, and that's what you're asking for. And for that, you have to experience yourself and your identity. On the other hand, you say, what's the Nikud of Rosh Hashanah? Shetam lichuni aleichem. Shetam lichuni aleichem is the complete submission, the complete surrender. You're my king. It's actually not about me. Now, you could really ask the same question about the whole year. By the tefillah from Shemona Esrei is the mispalel ka'omed lifnei hamelech. The Gemara says in Shabbos that by Shemona Esrei you're standing in front of the king. Different than a whole day, than the rest of the day. Was stehendig for hamelech terminit areisweisen kein tnua von eigene metzias. Person stands in front of the king. It's not a time for self-expression. Biz megefinen in Gemara, as a film machve b'moche kadme malka is a zachu vel cheskum de einish von epech hachayim. The Gemara says a story in Maseches Chagiga that there was a fellow, he was making signs in front of the king and it was considered treason. In other words, not only speaking disrespectfully, but even just doing his own thing. Why? Because in front of the Melech, there's a complete sense of reverence, of awe. Und zusammen damit mein Kaveh gewesen für jeden Iden in Nusach Tefillah die Beis Brachas am Tzayis was teichanen is Sheilas Trachav. And yet the 12 middle brachas of Shemona Esrei is all about your own needs. So you're standing in front of the king, and that's a very real experience. That's what davening is. Oimid lefnei melech, different than the rest of the day. And as he says in 27, the moment of Shemona Esrei is like a moment of awe and reverence. You're coming in right here, and you lose yourself. But say, no, don't lose yourself. You got to talk about your needs. And in Shema Keleinu, you could discuss anything you want. Whatever you want. From your dentist appointments to your anxiety, from your bills to your stress, from your children to your job, from your marriage to your health situation, and everything in between. And every bracha, really, you can add whatever you want, by the way, as long as it's part of the theme of that bracha. That's the halacha Shulchan Aruch. This is not like a robot, just ask for your need, just say the words. It's about a person feeling an experience, me, my passion, my needs, my feelings. Again, l'chayre the same paradox. Aber es ist von einer großen Chilek zwischen Tfilas Rosh Hashanah and Tfilas Kol Hashanah. But there's really a big difference between the davening of Rosh Hashanah and the davening of a whole year. B'chol Hashanah, noch der Hachtade von Rosh Hashanah, is the Eberste Kevayachel v'yamelech was firtam mit Amedina. Der Fall ist dann der Bittel von der Bnei Medina zum Melech in Aneufen, als es hört sich an, als es Dode Metzies und der Tzrach im Chuli von der Anshe Medina, was mit sie führt an der Melech. Es ist nur, was beschaß, man steht Mamisch lefnei am Melech, darf sein Nicker, als die ganze Metzies von der Medina ist nicht kein Selbstständiger, nur sie ist unterworfen der Melech. Beschaß haben, man darf erst Macht zu sein, der Mebersten als Melech. Wenn ist noch mehr Rummem und abgetragen von einer Haggis Amaluche, fordert sich ein größerer, tieferer Bittel, ein Bittel betachlis, in welchen es hört sich nicht kein Sach außer der Melech allein. Stellt sich die Scheile, wie kann man in Azam-Matzev betten der Melech wegen eigener zurück? Meaning a whole year, it's after the coronation. In our mashal, it's the day after the president, Lahavdil, was inaugurated. So now there's, of course, still a relationship and a connection. But now you're running a country. This is what the country needs. Say, don't ask what the country needs. Just ask what do you mean? You're a leader. The day after I come in, I tell you, hey, this is what I need. This is what I want. I got that. True, when you're standing in front of the king Mamish, that's like Shemona Esra, it's recognizable that the Metzias of the Medina, the Metzias of the country is not independent. It's under the king. So there's a respect, there's a reverence. But why did you come into the appointment? You came in to discuss your needs. I can understand that. That's the day after the coronation. Rosh Hashanah is something else. Rosh Hashanah is the day of Kabbalas HaMalchus. Rosh Hashanah is the day Shetamlichuni Aleichem. Then the focus is what? Not how the Melech is a din in the country, how the Melech is a leader of the country. The focus in Kabbalas HaMalchus is the Melech himself, especially in the Nimshal, because you have to inspire the king to become a king. He's completely aloof, like we always learn. A Malchus is a tzimtzum. Malchus is a descent. For Hashem to be a Melech, it requires a tremendous tzimtzum, a tremendous concealment of energy to be a Melech. A Melech means there's a world, there's a relationship with the world. Be'etzem einoid mulvadi is ein soif kol hakamei kaloi chashuv, like we always learn in the Maimarim and Likkutei Torah. So what you need to inspire the desire for the relationship. What inspires the desire? What inspires the desire is the complete connection, the complete authentic relationship where there's nothing outside of the relationship itself. I want you. So I ask not what you do for me, rather the focus is Ata, ein lana melech el ata. Not how you can help me, how you can treat me, how you can enhance my life, which is all great stuff, but that's the next step. And yet we see, so that's why the paradox of davening a whole year exists, but it could be explained in more easier terms than Rosh Hashanah, when you have mamish, two polar opposites that seem one extreme to another extreme. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue by Hashem tomorrow. Verstanden? The Parshas? Geht gebencht, ja. Aber der Chesh gerät, so soll ich beten alle gute Sachen. Okay, I didn't. I mentioned the airport because I was in the airport. Yeah. You have to know what Kabbalas HaMalchus means. We're not used to that concept. We always think in terms of me, what I need, what I want. You understand? You understand? Kabbalah Samalchus it's a very edel inyan. A person is not thinking about his needs. Is that possible even?
It's not black and white. It's different levels.
Yeah, there's the 12 brachas, the 12 middle brachas, is personal requests. The first 3 and last 3 not. First 3 we praise Hashem, the last 3 we thank. From Ritzei till the end, and till Akela Kaddish, HaMelech HaKaddish. But from Atachoinen, La'adam Das. Yeah? The next 12 brachas, they're called the 12 middle brachas, it's all Bakashas Rachav. Individual and collective. Whether wisdom, or forgiveness, or redemption, or health, or parnasa, or geula, or anti-Semitism, Jew hatred. So he says the same paradox you should ask about every Shemona Esrei. You're standing in front of the king. You're not allowed to even make movements with your hands, gestures that represent any separation, and then you start talking about yourself, and you're feeling it. So, but the Rebbe says it's not the same shaila like Rosh Hashanah, because a whole year, it's already the king is in office. President is in office. Yeah, you're coming for an appointment, you're right. You're standing in front of the king, you're not just an independent person running a show, but you're asking for your needs. That makes sense, makes much more sense. But Rosh Hashanah is the day of coronation. It's the moment of coronation. The moment of coronation, I told you the marshal. The king gets up and everyone is screaming, "Long live the king!" And you come and you say, "I have a pothole." It's you missed it.
Chaim, it doesn't make any sense.
Huh?
It's a Chilul Chaim.
It's not just the middle of Shemona. The whole Rosh Hashanah is Kabbalah Samalchus.
You don't have that many Bakashas. We have Bakashas in Nitzavim.
Huh?
We have Bakashas so much in Nitzavim. It's a Chilul Chaim.
No, you have all the piyutim and this. There's plenty of stuff. So Cheinul Chaim also.
So it looks like personal bakashas from Rosh Hashanah is like really out of place.
L'cha'ira, we're not done yet. But the Zohar is so sharp. The Zohar says a lashon. It's like a dog. In other words, the dog, when he says a dog, he's not cursing. He's like
It's like
a dog. Like basically, you're just like on a level of an animal.
What suffers?
The dog is very loyal, but for one reason.
He wants food.
He wants food. I mean, you have dogs who,
No, but they depend completely on the human.
I'm saying you have dogs who will do acts of sacrifice for the master.
They have personalities. They do this, that. That's not all of them,
But he says the point is the dog's loyalty, at least in many cases, is he wants to just give, have. So basically, my loyalty to God is I know you're the master, you're the boss, you have the paycheck, you got the money in the account. Of course, I'm loyal to you. So the Zohar is very disparaging of that. It's like, really? That's a relationship? And yet, it's not that we say, okay, yeah, you're right. But many of us who are on a low level, that's true. Our relationship with God is just because He's the boss. You're right. I have no loyalty outside of that. But he says that's not the case because the Chazal themselves established this. They put this into the fabric of Rosh Hashanah. That it's the right time to ask requests, and it's Chaykel Yisrael Hu, Mishpat L'Lekei Yaakov. And there's different things we do for that, and we speak about it. So that means it's part of the nobility of Rosh Hashanah. It's not just, b'di'evid, if you're not on a higher level, okay. So that's the question. How do the two really converge? That's the tension that we remain here with, that we will address.
So don't discard it.
No, not yet. The coronation happens every year. Erev Rosh Hashanah, so to speak, God says, we're done.
So we have a presidential.
It's brand new.
We have a presidential election every year.
Presidential election every year. Not just presidential. Monarchy.
I'm talking about from the
We have a presidential election every year, yeah. Every year. Yeah. Eretz Yisrael is very similar to the Jewish system, so they do it very often. That's why in Eretz Yisrael there's so many elections so often.
Yeah, they're very close to the...
I once heard a shir from Rabbi Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik, Rabbi J.B. Soloveitchik. Rabbi Yoshe Ber, so he said, a recording, So he said that when he was a child, he lived in a city called Chaslavich. Chaslavich. Chaslavich is a city in Belarus, Lithuania. His father was the Rav. Reb Moshe Soloveitchik was the Rav of Chaslavich. It's Reb so he was Reb Chaim Soloveitchik's Bechor. But the city was a Chabadske city. But the Rav was Rabbi Soloveitchik. Reb Moshe Soloveitchik was the oldest son of Reb Chaim Brisker. Later he came to America. He became the Rosh Hashiva of Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. When he passed away, his son, Rabbi Yosheber, took over. Rabbi Yosef Dov was his son, grandson of Reb Chaim. He was named after his great-grandfather, the Beis Halevi, Reb Chaim's father, Rabbi Yosef Dov. So he took over his father, Reb Moshe. But Reb Moshe was the Rav of Chaslavich. So Rabbi Yosheber, I heard this a recording from him. So he said that his Malamed was a Lubavitcher Malamed. So he said, interesting thing. He said once that his father caught the teacher learning Tanya with the boys. His father got very upset. And his father told Reb Chaim, they should go Yom Tov to Reb Chaim, to Brisk, and he told Reb Chaim. He said that Reb Chaim called him in after, and he says, "Do learn Tanya, Siveditzenutzkamen." Chaim Soloveitchik told his grandson, "You make sure to learn Tanya. You're going to need it." Interesting, huh? Reb Chaim told him. Huh? He used to teach Likkutei in the summer in Boston, yeah. I heard from Rabbi Genek. Huh? Yeah? You went?
Yeah, I didn't go to his Shul, but I knew that he taught.
He had a special place. It had a special place in his heart, no question. So he said in this shiur, he was talking to his Talmidim, that before Rosh Hashanah, he said like this. He said, I learned about Rosh Hashanah in all the Svarim. I know what it says in Rosh Hashanah in Bavli and Yerushalmi. He spoke like a Litvish Rosh Hashiva. I know Bavli Rosh Hashanah. I know Yerushalmi Rosh Hashanah. I know it by heart almost. And I know what the Rishonim say Rosh Hashanah. I know what the Acharonim say Rosh Hashanah. I know the Sifrei Musa say Rosh Hashanah. I know the Rambam. And he went through a list that he read everything that says in Rosh Hashanah. But he says, but the appreciation of what Rosh Hashanah is, I got from Likkutei Torah. And he said, from that teacher, when I was 8 years old, that teacher, he says, our teacher, Erev Rosh Hashanah in class, looked at us, and he said, what's happening tonight? So we said, it's Rosh Hashanah. So our teacher said that Tzemach Tzedek used to say, this is why you heard it, what I said before I heard it from him, that Tzemach Tzedek used to say that it's coronation night. So he would turn to us and say, who has to be coronated? So Rabbi Sylvester says, I was a smart boy. So I said, Nicholas. The Tsar of Russia was Nikolai Romanov. He was ultimately killed by the Bolsheviks in 1917. Him, his wife, all the kids, they murdered them. But he was the Tsar, Nicholas II. So when Rabbi Soloveitchik was a little child, the early 1900s, Nikolai was the Tsar. So he says, Nicholas. So he says, my teacher in Chaslavich looked at Euch mirakenig. Which means he's no king, which is interesting. You have a little poor Jew in a shtetl, doesn't have a few ruble probably to spare. You had the czars in their Hermitage palaces in Petersburg, were the wealthy, from the wealthiest families in the world. Yeah, he says, besides, we already coronated him as a czar a couple of years ago. What do we have to coronate him again? So he was not impressed with my answer. And then he said, tonight we're going to coronate, it was Erev Rosh Hashanah, tonight we're going to coronate the master of the world, Hashem. And he says, and who's going to coronate him? Who's going to coronate him? And he says, my Malamed looked and said, Chaim Yankel the Schuster, Chaim Yankel the shoemaker, and Zelig the Schneider, Zelig the tailor, and he went through the names. And the baker, and the innkeeper. He went through all the Aram Yiddelach, all the poor Jews in Chaslavich. He says, they're the ones who are going to coronate the king of the universe. So Rabbi Soloveitchik said. Nacht. Huh? Coronation, inauguration night. Yeah, inauguration night. So that's a feeling of complete oneness, complete bittul, complete surrender, complete submission. But then there's the opposite focus, l'chayre. Yeah. Yeah, the crown you put on the king. And the whole nation, so to speak, becomes subsumed in that moment of oneness. Which, as I said, we're allergic to these concepts because it's been so exploited by dictators. But in the ideal world, we're talking about Hashem, in the ideal world, this is the real power of a people. The unifying spirit of a nation. When it's really based on oneness, not based on manipulation and terror and exploitation and abuse and etc. So I'm saying the West went to the opposite extreme. The other side of Rosh Hashanah, though, as we say, yeah, that's the question. That's the question of the Sikh. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Be'ezer Hashem.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.